Good morning, you glorious mutants. It is I, Joel Clark, lead designer of Lone Wolf Fists, which is written. It's now out of my hands. But we've entered into the kind of frustrating process of sending stuff to editing and then sending stuff to layout. We've got 6 out of the 7 chapters I've got returned edited. I'm still waiting on the 7th one. I'm going to email Albert about it today. And I've got the first of those chapters that I went through and tech edited. So that's the final editing pass, and then I sent it over to Vic for layout. So he's working on that too. Have not seen that one yet either. That's where we are. It's kind of an unsatisfying point for me because it's a necessary point. You have to do this stuff. You have to edit text. You have to have someone else that isn't you edit it, and you really have to go over it again and tech edit a document, especially one this big. Once you're done, writing it, so it's all cohesive and so that you don't contradict yourself, and so any points that you randomly made and intended to follow up on later and didn't follow up on later, you can either follow up on or delete or change with whatever you did follow up with it on. So and there's a lot of that. I'm tech editing the second chapter, and as you guys will recall, the second chapter is very, very big. It's character creation, character advancement, and then every single technique or Gaptkala in the entire game. So I'm going through them in order, and now that I think I've done about 20 different styles, all said and told. Now that I've done 20, and now that I've playtested considerably all of these styles, I really know how they should feel and what things should look like. So some of the earlier styles, which were just me putting stuff on paper, kind of feeling out the boundaries of how a style should work, I'm going back to those, and I'm seeing where they were either undervalued or overvalued in places. I'm also seeing things from a very different perspective now, too, because I can think about every technique I wrote in detail because I've seen it in play for the most part. Like there's one called Bleeding Hedgehog Defense in what is that Tetsubo style that I have, Earth-Shattering Tetsubo, and initially I was actually pretty displeased with it. Let me actually pull up my notes here. I have an actual printed out copy I've been using as this. For the tech edit and for playtest. Let me see, where is that bad boy? Because at first I was disappointed with it, and then I thought about it, and I was like, actually, no, this is great. It's just very specific. Let's see here, double body transformation. Oh, the gun style is gonna get fixed up a little bit. Though I'm not a big fan of the Supreme technique in that one. So let's see. I love this one. Pre-motion double. Earth-Splitting Tetsubo. Okay, yeah, Bleeding Hedgehog Defense. Okay, so here it is. It's an expert level... Oh, no, it's not Bleeding Hedgehog. It's the one before that. Grit. Good old Grit. And Earth-Shattering, or Earth-Splitting Tetsubo... Earth-Splitting? Huh, I thought it was Earth-Shattering. Anyway, Earth-Splitting Tetsubo was meant to be like, what if Guts from Berserk and Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy VII made a Kung Fu style? There you go. Yeah, it doesn't have to be super complicated. And so Grit is just, for being whenever I wrote Grit, my idea was, what if your defense was just not dying when you got injured? This is fun, and you've got the name, you've got the mechanic, and all it requires is your stubborn will to live. Most things require things like an open chakra or a leg or an arm. This one doesn't have any requirement like that. It just says your stubborn will to live. So basically, as long as your character is using this charm, or this technique, too much exalted. But once they're using this technique, it's proof positive that they have what it takes to hit its prerequisite. So first of all, that's a pretty big boon right there. Normal cost 3, rank 1, facing 0 to 3. So that's all pretty standard stuff, right? The effect is you simply absorb the foe's attack, gritting your teeth and bearing through the pain. And here's the second part. This is the part I was like, this is kind of crappy. Rather than pay the prana cost of this technique, you can voluntarily take 1d10 damage and pay for it in your own flesh. It's skill endurance. Okay, so as a defense, when you think about that, it actually doesn't make a lot of sense. Rank 1 means it will absorb exactly 10 damage. So if I'm saying, okay, I don't want to pay for that, I'll use the alternate cost, I'm rolling a d10. Which is to say, I will instead absorbing 10 damage, I will absorb between 0 and 9 damage, depending on the facing of the die that I roll. So if I rolled a 5, I would take 5 damage, but I would also get a rank 1 defense, hence preventing a net 5 damage. which isn't really that great. Actually, it kind of sucks, and it might negate itself. And then I thought about it for a minute, and I was like, well, actually, you don't have to do that. You can just do the normal cost, and then you have a really good defense that doesn't require any prerequisites. So that's really strong. So if it didn't have that alternate cost mechanism, it would be stronger than most comparable defenses anyway. With the alternate cost mechanism, it's actually almost too strong. Because even if you don't have those prana available, you can still reduce incoming damage, or have a chance to reduce incoming damage. And in addition to that, it's an endurance-based thing. So if you just want to use it to boost endurance, and you don't have any prana, you just can, which is pretty cool. Like, if you need to hold your breath or something like that, you can take 1d10 damage and increase your breath holding capacity by 1 rank. It's pretty useful stuff, actually. And because you can sustain endurance actions, they can prevent damage over a longer course. So if you just need to grit your way through a fire, it's 1d10 damage and no prana, and you can get right through there. So, yeah, it's actually really strong. The only thing that would make it essentially perfect as a defense is if it had a... Oh, what is that called? Can't remember the name of it. Oh, infuse. There we go. So many keywords. If it had infuse, of course, you could use it even in addition to other defenses or other endurance boosters. So with that, you could simply take 1d10 damage and infuse a +1 rank endurance or a +1 defense to any other technique, which would be super broken. So that's all it's lacking to be the best defense or rank 1 defense that I have when you compare it to the tactical landscape of all the defenses. It is important, this tech edit, because I now actually have the environment in which all of these powers operate. So if you look at the earlier stuff, the stuff I'm editing right now, which I think the first one is the Golden Lions thing. Let's see here. Oh god, is it? Yeah, here it is. Okay, so if you look at them, a lot of their stuff is just hit them with a sword. Some version hit them with a sword. But some of them have unnecessary balancers in them. Like, for example, Falcon Flourish. Here's a good one that I just edited. First of all, I use the term repartee, which doesn't actually mean anything in sword fighting. It's a counter-argument. So I'm going to use the term riposte, which is what I should have used. The skillful riposte does no damage, but disarms or trips a foe. Okay, there's really no reason for it not to do damage. It should just have either a trip or a disarm. Like, most techniques do more than just their base thing. They do their base thing and have a rider effect. That's kind of built into the assumption of techniques. So when I look at that, I'm like, okay, well, when you compare that to all the other options, this one sucks. First of all, it's not just an arm. It requires an arm and a sword. So that's an additional requirement. Second of all, it's exactly the same as other ones. The facing is 6 through 9, the rank is 1, the cost is 3, so there's nothing there that, that's completely bog standard. It's got a skill which is senses, which is a good skill, and it's got a couple of keywords, which I think should be costed at a premium usually, but there's really no reason for this to cost either more than 3 or to not be able to do damage. Like, what? Just... No, it should be assumed to be able to do its core thing, and its rider effect. And a keyword is a rider effect. Very often with novice level techniques, I'll add a +1 prana surcharge for a significant rider effect. But really, with that one, I just don't feel like that. I feel like the requirement of having to have a sword kind of mitigates it. Now, mind you, like, the Golden Lions get swords out the wazoo, but it's still a requirement, and there's still, you can get disarmed, you can lose a sword. Like, whenever you think about the robustness of how big the tactical environment is, needing a weapon, it means something, it costs something. And the actual cost of turning any random chunk of the environment that is suitable into a sword is, I want to say, 3 prana, or 1 effort die, which is a reasonable surcharge if you don't have one to justify those rider effects and the versatility of the rider effects. So yeah, like, I'm able to think about things in these in more detail now. So this tech edit is very important for making certain that these actually balance in a way that they all are reasonable tactical trade-offs of each other. I don't like the term game balance. That implies an evenness of the scale. So I don't want balance exactly. What I want is for every one of these things to be a trade-off that is comparable to its nearest equivalent. So all the novice techniques should be trade-offs, all the experts should be trade-offs. The only one that's going to break that, of course, is Five Gateways, where almost all of its stuff is just at least marginally better than its nearest trade-off. And the reason is that that's supposed to be the king of martial arts in this world. Because of course it is. Fist of the North Star is the thing that inspired this game, and that's the Fist of the North Star Kung Fu. So, and it doesn't bother me that there's a canon style that is better than everyone else's, because it's not so much better that it's like, it's incomparable. It's just better numerically, and it's just by about yay much. Just enough that you can actually notice it in game. Now, I would like to point out that that's an important metric. Just enough so that you can notice it in game is actually huge, because the smallest possible difference is small enough that you probably really wouldn't notice it in the game, like a 1 or 2 prana change on a 12 prana charm, or fucking did it again, technique, like, you know, so taking it from 12 to 11 or 11, you know, or 12 to 13, like that you wouldn't really feel that, you know. Adding a +1 to something, not a +1 rank, but just a +1, that's the smallest you could get away with. But like statistically, most of the things in this game, like the boosts of ranks or the 3 chunk costs of prana, those really significantly alter things in a way that like you notice. Like you get techniques a round earlier than you're supposed to, because there's the economy of the way prana works is that it's consistently increasing. But for the first 2 or 3 rounds, it's pretty predictable. After that, it starts getting wonky. But the first 2 or 3 rounds, you could pretty much guarantee like what the prana per person is going to look like. After that point, it becomes it becomes balanced by how much damage you can take after having survived 3 rounds of combat. But especially in the early ones, especially in those early 3 rounds, like those are critical rounds for how a combat's going to go. First round is especially important. That's why there's usually so very little prana to be spent in that round. And subsequent rounds, like round 2 and round 3, are the ones where you kind of decide most fights. Again, that comes out of playtesting. But you notice if you get something around early. Like if you are getting a cost 12 technique on round 1, things feel very different. Like that feels enormously powerful. It's like getting hit with a truck for the most part. Just because even though those aren't unbelievably powerful, +3 ranks is really significant, you know? And so you're not really able to compare that to any defense you can muster at round 1. So you've got a rank 1 defense and whatever you've got going for you, and then they've got rank 3 and whatever they can pile on top of that usually powers through and does an injury. And even a rank 2 injury going into like round 2 with a rank 2 imbalance is really significant, because you have a real trade-off. Then you're like, okay, do I lose access to not only this limb but also all the techniques that limb allows me to use, or do I take a crippling effort at disadvantage? It's a big trade-off, especially whenever you're a lower degree. Wow, I talked for 13 minutes about this, Lord almighty. Anyway, point being, I'm doing the tech edit then. Things I have also accomplished with that, I did rewrite the karma section, not significantly. In essence, it was what I wanted. There were a couple of details that I disliked. Like, the idea with karma was supposed to be kind of a best of both worlds. There's things that I really liked about the old school karma rules in Marvel Face Rip, and there's stuff I like about the Cortex Plus version that they did. The Cortex Plus is the one I was really familiar with. I played that a lot. And in that one, you just had this little list of things that were characterful about your character, things that they wanted, goals, catchphrases. And you, as a player, proactively would go into a scene or go into an action, and you would kind of tag them, like, okay, you know, I'm the thing, so I'm gonna do my "it's clobberin' time" phrase and get myself a point of experience, and then I'm gonna punch Dr. Doom in the mouth with my huge rock hand. You know, there you go. It's fun. It's characterful. It was neat to be able to like hit those tags as a player, and like it felt really empowering to be like, I'm in charge of how my character does stuff. You know, I'm pursuing my stuff. I can feel myself building this. I'm gonna just grab this out. So I made some of the clan dharmas something that is player directed. Players are supposed to suggest whenever their dharmas can come into play. They look at a scene, they filter it through their dharma, and they're like, okay, here's one I could do. I could do this, and they get their XP. The other ones are GM offered. You know, you see something, happening that, is bad. You can prevent it. I'll give you 2 XP if you prevent it. If the players aren't really interested, you can just tempt them into it with some XP. So they do the thing, they all get 2 XP, everybody's happy. And then the kind of plot arc one, the one where it's like, well, this kingdom isn't going to save itself from the barbarian horde, that's worth more than 2 XP, number one, because there's a lot of individual things that are going to happen. And so it's the 20 XP reward, and it's a long scale one. And again, it's the GM offers it. Like, if you get involved and save this village from the barbarians, you'll get 20 XP as a reward. And I also kept the escalation mechanic, where if that turns out to be a lot more challenging than you thought, you can add another 20 XP to it. And then you can even add further 20 XP to it if it gets so insanely difficult it becomes like a thing that you're dealing with for over a month of out-of-game time. So, yeah, that felt good, because it's the same basic rules there, which we're all familiar with, but also who is offering what and when and how has changed a little bit so that it encourages the kind of play that I wanted to see. And I'm actually pretty happy with it. Also, it means I don't have to redo the math for advancement, which I really don't want to do, because I did it twice, and the second time was really comprehensive and complicated, and I lost some of my notes. I'm sure they're here somewhere, but I really don't want to go through that again. So, yes, did that. That's completed. Kung Fu is getting completed. I read through the different the different starting character packages and all that. I'm pretty satisfied with them. I could go in and I could tweak them here and there, but for the most part, they're pretty much where they need to be. So I'm not really worried about that. I like the D10 roll. I think that it's gotten a lot of feedback that has. Some people just really do not like building a character and then having a die roll dictate what cool thing they get. But I gotta tell you, man, whenever people roll that die in front of the GM and the whole group and they're like, oh, I got this thing, it matters. It sets the tone and the excitement for the game, and it's such that almost every time that you get a group of around 3 or 4 people together, which is the ideal amount of people to play this with, at least one of them will get something cool. Nothing is so cool that it's better than a character, but they're all pretty cool to have, and it makes you feel like you have a real treasure. It's kind of the same idea of like opening up a pack of magic cards, or any of those little Skinner box surprise things. Oh, what's in this bag? Oh, it could be anything. That's worth $9.99. Then you open it up and you get like a special die. And even if it's kind of stupid, it matters to you. You're like, oh my god, I got the Toxic D20. I don't really like green, and Toxic's kind of not exactly my, I don't really have a pre-existing idea of what I'm going to do with a Toxic die, but I got it. It's mine. Look how cool it is. It makes you value it. And it's the same thing with rolling a d10 and getting some cool thing from the armory or whatever. It makes you value it. It makes it important to your character, and that emotional through line is really important to this game. It connects you to it, and I understand it's a Skinner box. I get it. I don't care. It works, and it's fun. So it's staying in. Final word on that. It's staying in. And if you really hate it in your games, you can just give them the average package, like a loser. You lame loser. Let's see here. What else have I got to do in this chapter? I think that's everything. Oh, I've got to look at the Gupkala again. Artisan might get changed a little bit. I think for the most part, the other ones are okay. I need to add a little more flavor to the Seer. I think it's a little textbooky as it reads right now. When I was thinking about it, I was at the library. Every time I go to that library, the rules that come out of that are not winners. I don't know why I go there. It's just it's a calming place, and it structures my thoughts. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan. They work and they do what I want them to do, but I think I'll add a little more flavor to them. Artisan, it makes robots alive, I guess. I should probably think of something else to do with that one. I did sort of backdoor in some stuff with artifacts and with weird, wacky inventions when I finally got around to writing the armory, which is, I knew the armory was going to do that for the artisan, so probably should have written that first, but whatever, it did what it did. So yeah, artisan will probably get changed a little bit. I don't think I'm going to take anything away from artisan. I'll probably just add some text about those different parts of the armory that they can uniquely do. Everything else is pretty good in that one, I think. I think the Gupkala, for the most part, are pretty rad. For the most part. I may go through them with a fine-tooth comb and find that I need to expand the narrow definitions of some of the imbalances they could make or something like that. We shall see. But yeah, that's chapter 2. The other chapters, a lot of them, and I've been looking through them because I've got the whole thing, the whole book printed out here. A lot of what they have is a lack of organization. The Game Master chapter is pretty rad. So I'm pretty happy with that one. I think I need to soften it a little bit because, like, I have this very strict, specific way I want you to make content and things like that. But, you know, honestly, it's not necessary to be that strict in-game. I just wanted to give you guidelines that you could reference solidly. Let's see. There's a few little things. I need to clear up followers. Followers is in that section, too. That got feedback from a playtest group. Followers did. So they need to get fixed up. And it's not... none of this is much. It just needs... I just need to go over these things again with in the light of, okay, how are people actually supposed to use this? Because when I first wrote this, it was, I got to get these ideas out of my head in a cohesive enough form and then move on to the next point. Now it's, okay, how do people use this in a game? And that's important. Domains. Let's see. I need to go into domains, and this is something that was frustrating to me when I was rereading it. I need to go into domains, and I need to write out exactly what I'm trying to accomplish with a given section, and probably add just a little bit more writing. For example, markets. Markets, there it is. Here's what markets are. Here's a chart. I have no idea how I expected people to use this. I can decipher my own crazy hinge scratch writing, and what I'm trying to do here. But I think that I'm going to add at least a sidebar, which is what is a market for? How does it work? And what that's going to do is just tell you, like, okay, so a market is just the availability of goods to players. What can they buy? And I might add some examples to this kind of unfriendly chart. Because the chart works, kind of. And it is robust, which is good. But a lot of these things deal with abstractions, and I need to clue players in, especially GMs in, to how to pitch those abstractions to a player. Why can't I buy a magic sword here? Well, because these are flea-picking barbarians who don't know how to craft magic swords. They might have one, but you'll need to find a black market. You know, just being able to say something like that makes this a lot more usable. Bureaucracy chart? What is this? Well, it's just the development of a government, and I need to integrate that a little better with the government rules that are in domains. Anyway, let's see. Crafting is okay. I should probably take another whack at that. Where was the other one? There's another one in here where I was like, what? Power grids and power plants. What do you do with this? Okay. Well, what you do with it is you make a domain, and you power it. But it needs to get gone over, and it needs to get, like, beefed up a little bit in terms of usability. All the rules are there, needs to be translatable to your table. So I need to go in there with the wonderful little brush I have of taking the cold, hard rules of this stuff that I made and saying, okay, GMs, how do I use this? What is this for? I might even add that to the GM chapter. Like, it's such that, like, this section... It isn't super friendly, and I wanted to make it friendly. So yeah, that needs to get done. The bestiary, I think, is pretty much good. I just wrote that. I just wrote the bestiary and the armory. I think they're pretty much good. Laura's is the same way. Laura's is pretty much good. It does what it has to do. I may go over and try to make starting areas out of each of the lores just to make sure that it's making the thing that's in my head. But I feel like for the most part I'm going to get something very, very close, so probably fine. Same thing with NPCs. I'll like throw out some NPCs and see if they feel like I want them to feel. But for the most part, Lore's is probably okay. So anyway, that's where the tech edit is. That's where the layout and everything is. That's what's going on, folks. This unfortunately is not the sexiest part of the releasing the game thing. And I understand that maybe you don't have the patience or the time to sit through half an hour of me jaw-jacking about like these little minor, house cleaning things, admittedly, that I'm doing to this game at this point. Especially once the big, sexy, like, writing part of it is, like, the thrill of each chapter coming out was really big. Now it's like, well, I thought I'd alter this prana cost by one. Yeah, nobody cares. I mean, I care, and you'll care when it hits your table. Like you're gonna be able to open this book, and it's gonna be friendly and usable. And whenever you use the techniques at the table, it's gonna be right. It's gonna feel right. They're gonna have that kind of push and pull that we call balance, but is really a very carefully crafted unbalanced. And it's gonna be great. It's getting there. This is kind of a dull part. I'm sorry. Let's see. I still have 5 minutes for the 30 minutes, and this is going to be a big one anyway. So, Kung Fu. Oh, the backer Kung Fus. We actually have a couple in the Fistiverse now, you guys, and check them out. I talked to the backers. They gave me the A-OK that they are completed, and I shared a few of them. So I think we have the Lucid Nue up there. What else do we have? Let me actually pull it up. It's in the pinned posts. Which, by the way, if you are not in the Fistiverse, go to the Fistiverse. On it, it's a great little place with wonderful people. I'm on there very frequently. You can see me just going on tirades about game design or whatever stupid crap I'm on that day. So that's really entertaining. And there's some fantastic people on there. The constant stream of random bullshit and memes. Let's see here. Here we go. Yeah, inspiration and resources. So you go to inspiration and resources, and you go to the pinned messages. Here we go. We have the Lucid Nue, first minor clan. Oh, I need to put up the. This is another clan too that I finished. A friend of mine, Jude, paid me for. Put those guys up. We have Unyielding Hung Fist. Oh goodness, I've only got those two. There's a couple of fantastic different ones I want to make sure I'm going to as well. So I've got Unyielding Hung Fist, and what's the other one? Yeah, it's Unyielding Hung. Where is this one? Rats. Okay, well, there are more. So I'll put those up as the time warrants. But yeah, there's more. Actually, I'm going to put those up right now. And so there's actually more styles in addition to all the playtest documents you guys have access to. So there should be more than enough to start playing your games, which is lovely. Really, you're not even worrying about the game being done at this point. It is actually done, and it's actually available. Whether you are a Lone Wolf Fist backer, whether you are a Lone Wolf Fist patron, you should have access to the living playtest document. That is the most up-to-date version of the rules currently. And the version you're going to get, the PDF you're going to get access to in a little bit, it's just going to be an edited, artful, laid out, much friendlier version of the text you already have. So if you do want to start doing your campaigns, these are the rules. There's going to be a couple of facelifts as we go from the raw text to the edited and laid out text and what have you, but you do actually have it, so that's really good news. So there's no more real waiting for that. PDF is coming down the pike next. That's really what all this frustration is for. And then after that, we're going to do the formatting for print and layout. I don't know how long it's going to take because I really have high standards for this book. I want it to be a big, sexy, beastly kind of tome. Actually, I got my copy of Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland, and I wanted to kind of have this same vibe, where it's this wonderful, robust hardback with like really good binding. And I want this high quality, like thick paper that could actually stand up. By the way, the Bruicorn is a very cool class in this one. My favorite one is the Ronald Rago bots. Yeah, look at that guy. But yeah, I mean, look at that. This wonderful, robust black and white art. These wonderful tables that have this like striping, so they're easy to read. Big, friendly letters. Lots of fun, splattery kinds of art. That's what I want. Lone Wolf Fist should aspire to such greatness as Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland. Okay, it's half an hour. I'm tired. And I've got some tech editing to do. So, thank you all for dealing with me being on my shit as I continue to make the world's foremost idiot punch game. And I hope to have a more substantial update with more post-layout chapters for you next time. Until then...